Welcome to my regular monthly look at WTI crude oil prices and where they may be heading next. Now, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subs and bell buttons. It all helps the channel. Now, a lot's happened over the last 4 or 5 weeks in the WTI oil market. Fears of Chinese demand, a banking crisis in the US, and still that underlying inflation interest rate fears also pressing on demand, all lurking in the background, making it not a great place at the moment. And as we've seen in prices, slipping downwards. So is there more pain to come? Well, I'm going to dig into the sentiment, fundamentals, the technicals to try and work out where that price is going to go over the next few weeks. So with that, let's take a look. Now, starting with the Baker Hughes rig count, always a good indication what's going on in the wider energy oil sector. And the US line's one I focus on. As we can see, the change from prior count -3, and change from last year +83. So that's quite a low number compared to what it has been. It's been in the hundreds not too long ago. So it's feeling a bit more neutral, a bit weaker. Not too much to take away from crude oil inventories. They're out later today. That's time you see there, 2:30. That's UK time. Now, better than expected last week, -1.694 million barrels. Forecast for this week 1.188 million. So look for those big large anomalies in either direction, maybe to force the hand and the price in the shorter term. Now into the charts, and first up some sentiment technical analysis. We've got seasonality down at the bottom, and you can see this time of the year really sharp fall off there in the historical price there. And then on the left hand side, you can see it's a bit more of a bumpy run up for the next few months till the end of April before it starts to look bullish again. Now, the commitment of traders data, large speculators, large commercials, giving away a very bearish picture. We've got the large commercials going up, the large speculators who should follow that price heavily moving down. And as you can see, we've got this range bound area on the daily chart there. Put those green arrows on to sort of signify a potential breakout. At the moment we're off to that downside, looking to test those recent lows. So commitment of traders data bearish, seasonality weak bearish. And moving on to my currency basket oil indicator in the longer term, again, if we see this pointing that way in the long term, and you can also see in the short term it breaking down, that is a more bearish indicator for the price. And volatility, oil volatility, what's going on? Well, we can see that big spike up, and the indicator at the bottom also turned green. Now look for the inverse relationship here. If volatility's up, normally, and I time this in with other indicators that I use, don't just follow it blindly, but normally if that's up, I'm looking for price to move downwards. And into pure price action, weekly Heikin-Ashi chart here for the longer term view, and bring your attention to this zone here that I'm just highlighting now, between 69.70 to 80.81, and you've almost got a sort of a heads and shoulders pattern building out here. There's one shoulder, the head, and another shoulder. Now if that breaks down, and that's pattern, you would normally take the high of the head to the that neckline, which is somewhere through there, and you'd project that on downwards, and you could be talking late 20s, late sort of early 30s as that potential downside, and it would break through all this volume noise here as it tries to break down. So a really key critical area, this 69.70. Can it bounce and move back into that 2 standard deviation regression trend that it's been in for quite a few years, or are we now witnessing a break on downwards? So an interesting chart there. And into the line break chart, now this is good for getting reversal. So if you are bullish and looking for potential upside, then I'm using a 3-hour line break chart here, slightly against the rules of technical analysis, introducing time, but it works for coming in with reversal signals. 73, 76.5, a couple of numbers if you're looking for that price to be, like I say, using maybe the Fibonacci lines in the longer term to bounce off and move on upwards. And then into the Renko charts, longer term on the left, shorter term on the right. Start with the longer term. You know, it has had some strong overhead resistance around 82 sort of dollar area, and the price really has been bumpy in that range that we saw in the other charts, but just starting to break down, as you can see, around that 72 zone, moving on downwards. And we've got the indicators also pointing downwards. And shorter term, a trend from early March, all very bearish signals, very bearish as well. And what about targets? It's more bad news in the short term actually than the longer term Renko chart. So you know, you could be talking 67, 65 in the short term there for a downside break. You know, if it can hold here, then we're going to be back into this sort of zone around 72 to 75 is my guess, where you know the price is going to settle. There's a lot of, you know, reversals in the price at those sort of levels where we can see, you know. So you know, at the moment that trend looking pretty bearish, in the outlook not looking that good at the moment. Now let's put a score on that, and I'm going bearish overall at the moment. On the right hand top side, the underlying indicators separate from the price volatility, the currency strength, commitment of traders, seasonality, all stacking up on the bearish side, and it's the same in the Renko charts. Maybe more bearish in the shorter term than the long term, but still not looking good. In terms of targets, upside 1.67 and 2 to 1, downsides 1.43 and 2.29 to 1. There's short term more aggressive targets. So at the moment I'm going bearish for WTI crude oil. So it's not looking great for WTI oil at the moment. Technicals, fundamental sentiment all shifting south, and the wider global picture also not helping its cause. Let me know in those comments below what you think is going to happen next to crude oil. Love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to learn more about the technical analysis and the charts that I've used in this video, then I've got a little playlist coming up now for you that you might enjoy.